Yeah, hi, this is SportsReplays here. Oh yeah, a bit of a disaster week. Another bad week, to be honest. Wasn't going to upload, but I thought I'll just, make a video and just express my feelings of just how poor this week has turned out. A lot of bad luck and I guess a few poor tradings as well. It probably, I mean, it's not as bad as I thought I did, to be honest. I thought I would be like around rank 70 for the round, or 70,000, I should say. But it's not the case. But I've still gone down the rankings, and at this stage, it looks like I won't even finish in the top 20k, to be honest, which is simply not good enough for someone who's played it for a while now. And then if you look at my team, so Whitfield and Sheasel did phenomenal. Whitfield's actually bounced back. He's actually more expensive than Nick Dacos. Who would have thought? So I'm happy with Whitfield because I thought he might get injured at some point or dish out an average score, but he's been fairly consistent, more than I thought he would. So it's actually been an alright trade-in. That one could have been an absolute disaster, but yeah, he's actually done alright. And the day costs 106. So he's dropped off a little bit. The last few weeks, Collingwood were just pretty ordinary, to be honest, for the last month. Not even Dacos can save him. And then you've got Luke Ryan, 99, another player who's dropped off, and he's only at 546,000. So if you paid like 650 for him, you'd be pretty annoyed, I guess. And you got Nick Martin, 90, who was average. He had a great game last week. Wasn't that great, but wasn't terrible. So his floor, Martin, the floor that Martin has isn't too bad, other than the first round. He hasn't done horrific after that. He might have had one or a couple of poor games, but nothing, that is a huge red flag. And then you've got Houston, 96, who again is another player who's just dropped off for the last month. So quite a lot of players who have dropped off. Whitfield's actually turned it on the last couple of weeks, which is great. Probably one of the few reasons why GWS is actually performing well as well. And then we've got Bontempelli, 122. Just a standard score, nothing crazy, but not terrible either. And then Butters, which is where the disappointment starts to begin. Just the whole midfield is just probably arguably one of the most frustrating lines over the last month. Yeah, pick Butters as captain, and it's just been an absolute disaster. To be honest, I think he had a decent second half or last quarter that was just crap for the rest of it. And even though Port won, so you would think Richmond do concede a lot of Supercoach points, and you think, players like Butters be getting at least 120. And that wasn't the case. A lot of other people in the same position too. It's just irritating when you have multiple things go wrong in the round. You at least have one saving grace, but it wasn't the case. It's just not good enough for a player of his ability and playing the bottom side. He has probably the weakest midfield in the game at the moment. I mean, come on. At least get 120 or 110, or at least be minimum 100. For a captain score. It's just frustrating. Okay, now on to Mira at 108. Took a VC. Considering they were playing Adelaide, I thought, he might go off, and he didn't. Not a terrible score, but not quite good enough for a vice captain score. It's a bit with Merritt. He's probably not the player that you probably really want as a VC or captain, mostly because he doesn't have that high ceiling. He may get like one or two games a year where he gets that 140, but he just hasn't done that as much as what I want. But then again, he doesn't have a low floor either. So he's probably one of the more consistent players, but it's not really going to give you that huge, mega scores like for Luke Ryan. But Luke Ryan can more likely to drop a 60, but he's more likely to get like a 190. And that's the thing with Merritt. Did take the gamble there. I mean, who else played early? I think the Bulldogs. They played Saturday night. Collingwood played. They played Saturday. So there's a few early games. It wasn't too many good players I wanted early, which is a bit frustrating. Then on to the Tom Green, 117, which is okay. He's bounced back slightly in the last few weeks. Still been a bit average. His price has actually still dropped. He has to be a hold now anyway. It's been a bit of a roller coaster with him. He had a great start and then he got a 5 1 week and he's been mediocre ever since. And it's looked like I'm going to have to get rid of him. But he's steady the last few weeks, but he's still not getting that 140, 150 scores as often as what I like. And then you got Caleb Sarong, 140. If you had him as captain, you'd be laughing this week. Yeah, great game from him, great game from Fremantle. And they should make the top 8 now and probably get at least a home semi-final. Might even make the top 4. And you got Sam Walsh, 94. A little disappointing from Walsh, considering they played North Melbourne. So Butters and Walsh have been a bit disappointing the last month, to be honest. It's just been irritating. Been an underperformer, Walsh. Sort of a bit of a trap bringing him in. He just hasn't lived to that high expectations. And I think with Cripps stealing the points and a few other players as well, even though Carlton are one of the highest Supercoach scoring sides, it hasn't really helped Sam Walsh. It's just a bit irritating. I'm not picking a player ever again based on what everyone else does sometimes. Sometimes it's a bit of a hit or miss. It's sort of like with Heaney. I didn't start with him and a lot of other people did. Or we traded him early in the first month. It's one of those situations where, okay, do you go with the flow or you just don't go with everyone else and try to choose another player and get an advantage over everyone else, but that could also be a disadvantage if they perform poorly. Walsh just hasn't got those mega scores. When playing against North Melbourne, you expect that 110, 120 plus, and that's never guaranteed. It doesn't matter who they're playing. North Melbourne weren't that far off winning anyway. They're probably the better team for at least half the game. And then you got Jordan Dawson, 81, a little disappointing considering Adelaide won. So he's been pretty much a flop for pretty much most of the season. He did have a couple of good weeks. I think he had one game against Essendon, scored about 170, and it sort of saved me for a little bit. But he's just been mediocre. And sort of like with Adelaide, he's had a few good weeks, but most of it's just been disappointing. And it's probably been overall the most disappointing player in my side, to be honest, that I've managed to hold on to. And then Matt Rowell, this has been a failed trade him. So it's all been a disaster once Miller got injured. If Miller wasn't performing as poorly or didn't get injured, I'll be miles ahead where I'm at. I could have about a month ago traded Rosie in. Would have made 100k if I got rid of Miller, and plus it would have been a lot more points ahead. It's really cost me not doing that. I was thinking at the time, should I waste a trade here and take the gamble, have 100k and then invest somewhere else, and then hopefully get extra points. And if I did that, I would have been miles ahead where I'm at. It's just been irritating. I'm surprised Matt Rowell's playing this crap, considering he had a great start to the season, like 51. He's at 421. He was at 600k at one point. Was one of the highest scoring players, and now he's just dropped off. It's really poor. So I don't know what's going on there with Matt Rowell, his ability. So he really needs to work over the preseason, I reckon. If he can get to preseason and perform well, he might even have a good selection next year. And then now we've got the bench. Manor and Dowling now did phenomenal. I'm happy with that. They're outscored some of these other midfielders here, who are paid a lot more for, just to put it that way. Probably should have taken Dowling's score over Matt Rowell. That's how bad Matt Rowell's been. I should never have traded him Rowell, but I had no other option for that price point. It's all because of Miller getting injured, really. I never wanted to really bring him in, but he might have a couple of good weeks coming up. He has performed poorly. He might bounce back because he has that potential too. But I just don't know if he's going to do that. It's just been an absolute train show with the midfield. Just been a train wreck. At the start of the season, I thought it wasn't too bad. I was more worried about my defence, but my defence has actually done all right. That's not where I've lost the most points. Maybe at the start, the first month or so, where it needed a bit of work. But definitely the last half of the year, it's probably mainly the midfield and maybe a bit of the rucks, which we'll get to in a minute. Tim English 139. That's good. Happy with that. It's been a good trade in. Wish I traded him a bit earlier. And then you got Kruger, 24. So he got subbed out, which is one of the few players in my side who got subbed out. Early on in the game, it's a bit of a disaster game for Collingwood too. Probably the worst game in a while. I haven't seen them play that poorly for a while. I think maybe against that, was it the semi-final against Geelong, is it? In 2020, I believe. They haven't played that bad since. So there's huge concerns with Collingwood. Their ageing list, their depth isn't quite as strong anymore. They're performing poorly in the VFL as well. So they're Collingwood, maybe they're finished, who knows. But in terms of Kruger, hopefully Gawn comes back in and that will solve that problem. I don't know if he's going to be playing next week just for backup reasons because I only have 3 trades left. So, hopefully Gawn plays next week. That's why I still hold on to him. If I knew what was going to happen, I probably could have traded him in a few weeks ago if I was going to do that, but I didn't. So, it's those risks, but then if I get a couple other players injured, I don't want to have a donut. Or having a rookie on field, that scores like a 50 or 60. I just can't have that, not at this stage of the season. So, it is what it is. It's just been frustrating, the whole ruck selection. She never got rid of Grundy, but then I needed cash and Robin Sweet, and it's just been... Things just haven't gone my way, And then you've gone Flanders, 128, so he's been probably arguably the most consistent forward this season. But he's been great. If you had the captaincy on him, you've been laughing. Well, sort of anyway. Better than all these other options here. And then Heaney, arguably one of his worst performances of the year. So I'm not too sure if the suspension impacted him a little bit because he's dropped off a bit. Had a great start to the season where I didn't own him, but he just hasn't, quite been the same. And he won't win the Brownload, so I'm not too sure if he's going to try as hard now. In fact, he's actually cheaper than Flanders now. Who would have thought? And then Zorko, 129, so he's bounced back. Did all right. Helped Brisbane get over the line. He's probably the best player at his age group, to be honest. Seems to be improving with age. And then Luke Jackson, 96. Did mediocre. I'm not going to complain. It's at least in my worries. And then another huge problem is this Zach Fisher, 38. Gets subbed out. And he's been a bit of a disaster the last few weeks. I should have traded him out as well if I knew this was going to happen. It's been an absolute crap show. I could have probably brought in Cardwell and it would have been better off. But even Cardwell has issues now. But at least for the last few weeks, would have had a decent score. I think Ranklin, he's got suspended as well. Who else is probably maybe Dylan Moore might have been ideal now. I think Kerno 106, so he's bounced back the last couple of weeks. With a couple of decent scores. So hoping maybe for like a mega 140 score, 150 from Kerno against North, but he hasn't really delivered that this season, which is a bit frustrating. He hasn't got those huge bags, even though he's still Coleman. Don't think he's going to score as many goals this season. So he's been a little disappointing. This shows how bad, though, the forwards these days just aren't scoring as much as what they used to. If Kerno is a top scorer with not too many goals. And Richards, 52. That's just mediocre. Yeah, he usually stare as a sub at the moment if he keeps his spot. I'm not even too sure. So look, overall, terrible. It could have been worse, I guess. With a few semi-pods like Whitfield doing all right. I think was Whitfield my top scorer on a Sheasel, and it's the wrong way, only just. All right, English. So I had a few decent scorers, but a lot of disappointments. Defence was all right. That was probably my strongest line this week, but it was just a couple of midfielders. Particularly Matt Rowell. She never brought him in, and then you've got Butters, 89. As captain is probably just as big as a disaster. Matt Rowell seems to be getting worse every week. And Kruger, well, that's unexpected with the sub, and same with Fisher. So usually, you expect Fisher to get like a 90 average, just to say for at least, I think Cougar at least get a 50 or a 60, maybe a 60, and a 90. So, that's like a 30, plus what about 50, 60 points, so like about 90 or 100 points lost just from 2 players getting subbed, plus Matt Rowell performing poorly, plus the captain. That's what about another 150 points lost there as well, or another 50 points lost there. So it's 200 points, where players, I've lost from that. So that's where I was behind today. I was 200 points behind, the pack. And a few bit of it was just poor decisions with trade-ins. But a bit of it was luck too, and it just hasn't been my way the last 2 months really. With just injuries going down and players who other people pick up who are performing better, midfield dropping off. So going forward, I just hope Gorn plays next week. That'll solve that issue. Not too sure if Jordan Dawson plays. I think he will, hopefully, because I think he did have a bit of incident on Friday night. Other than that, I'm not too sure. There's not going to be too many more changes. Maybe Zach Fisher. I need to look a bit more into that too. If Gordon doesn't play, I can't have Kruger on there. I'm probably going to have to switch Jackson and then probably put Richards on or something like that, or maybe do a switch here somewhere. It's a bit frustrating because I'd rather have these two on as a backup, but I made it away where I can't now, unless I bring in a forward midfield in or something like that as a rookie. Get rid of Richards. Maybe use that 100k. It's a bit too late now for getting another midfielder in. Really is. I mean, who knows? I hope you had a better week than me. You probably did. I mean, most people did. If you did perform worse than me, well, we can complain about it together. Okay, thank you for watching.